So next up, I'm delighted to welcome Portia Tung to the stage. Portia's going to, as it was already introduced, talk to us about Agile and her experience of that. Portia works with for Emergent, and they work with Agile on 2 levels. I'll let you explain while I swap your slides over.
Great. Evening, everyone. Welcome. I know it's a wintry evening to be here now, but it's lovely to have you all here. So my name's Portia Tung. I work at Emergent. I have a number of roles in life, some of which include being a consultant, a coach. So I work with organizations to help them become more agile in terms of business agility. And through looking at organizational change and adopting something we call Agile, it allows us to deliver more value faster at less cost. And this evening, I hope to be able to show you a glimpse of what that means and what it could mean to you at your workplace. So I've worked at a number of large organizations on my travels, including things like Standard & Poor's, Standard Life, Gasco, British Airways, BT, Vodafone, just to name a few. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the kinds of challenges I might be facing, possibly very similar to your own. So one way to think about Agile is really, it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. So a lot of people will say to me, you know, there are so many ups, Portia, but then the next day there's a little bit of a down because there's so much more to learn, there's so much to do. Well, that's the nature of Agile. It's about continuous learning. It's about okay, all right, great. Please grab a seat. Interesting, huh? Agile principle number 1, deliver value. So you need to know your goal, and you need acceptance criteria, and you need to be able to actually measure that value. Of course, for those of us who are unable to deliver on time, to cost, to scope, there's a degree of waste. Likewise, for those of us working on projects, if we don't know the goals of our projects, that could lead to waste. And of course, we don't know the value of what we're working on. Not only is it kind of sad and not very fulfilling as a job in what we do, it's also wasteful because it's going to be wasting time and money. So Agile principle number 3, we're looking at ways to eliminate waste. So let's go back to Agile principle number 1, deliver value, because we talked about, you really need to know the value you're delivering in order to eliminate waste. So here's a comparison. We have value in a waterfall project. So as you can see, we merrily go along on our project journey, and it's really not till the very end where the pink, which is the cost you're incurring on the project, hopefully flips into green, which is where you start making money. Let's see how Agile compares to that. Well, in Agile, what you'll see is the pink dips are much smaller and much closely bunched together. How does that happen? Because we release earlier and often to make sure that we have incremental value accrued over time. What does that really mean? Well, it means that instead of waiting for a year, and sometimes the project runs late, 2 to 3 years, instead of waiting for that moment where you would get this green peak right at the very end in a waterfall project, in Agile, what you're actually doing is bringing profit earlier. So one way to think about Agile is a bit like buy-to-let property. So I think, most people's dreams are, oh, it'd be quite nice if I could save up for a buy-to-let. Then, my apartment in Manchester can make money whilst I sleep. Wouldn't that be nice? So in Agile projects, if we do it right, what you find is by releasing early and often, the revenue you generate from the project delivered in incremental releases can actually pay for the project itself. Imagine a self-funding project. How good would that be? Or perhaps from the profit you make from the project, you can use it to fund something else. R&D, start another line of business. Just imagine what you could do if you could bring that money in earlier. So this evening, we're going to talk a little bit about how you would do that using Agile. So first of all, what we've found in our experiences as consultants and coaches working with teams and organizations who say, you know what, we kind of want to do Agile, we experience 5 types of reasons. So the first one, desperation. Well, it's the only way we're going to survive. The competition's really kind of, not only are they delivering faster, but the quality's so much better than us. So it's about desperation. And of course, there's number 2, which is frustration. Well, that's not really that hard to do. could knock it out in a day, says a developer. Only, you know what, there's a testing process, there's a release process, and a release cycle is 4 months. So even for 1 day of coding, it's going to take 4 months. So you know what, we're doing our best, but God, it's tough. Then there is number 3. So fear of recognizing that, you know what, Agile isn't just a buzzword anymore. It's slowly becoming de facto. The other day I was on the tube and someone else was, a bunch of blokes were kind of just, talking about work. And I was listening in a respectful way, and they said, yeah, we're doing this thing called Agile. And the bloke goes, oh yeah, oh what's that? Is that aerobics then? What does that mean? And then someone else goes, well, we were delivering value faster, and actually I'm really just enjoying work a lot more. And it's everywhere. So hopefully now that you've been introduced to what Agile is, this evening when you go home or in the following days or weeks, you'll start coming across more Agile thinking in your lives. So there's fear. So fear of being left behind as Agile goes mainstream. And to be honest, to many people out there already, Agile is mainstream. Then of course there is hope. The belief that we could actually do better than what we do. We're doing better, we're doing good already, but we want to do better. And then there is the 5th one, which is desire for continuous improvement. Going from, mediocrity to good and even to great. So again, out of respect to the people, Agile principle number 2, let's see a show of hands, and we're going to do estimation poker. We all have 4 fingers and a thumb. So what we'd like to do is if you can stick your hand up and just with the fist closed and have a think what number you are at in terms of these 5 mindsets. When you have a number in mind, just hold your fist up. So we wait for everybody. Take your time. Keep your fist closed. Keep your fist. Fist, please. Yep, because you don't want to influence the crowd. That's it. Keep your fist closed. You can flash me your hand in a minute. Okay? Yeah? All right, so when you're ready, I'm going to count to 1, 2, 3, and just flash your fingers to vote for which mindset you are currently in. 1, 2, 3, go. Thank you very much. So you got 1, 4, 4, 5, 2, 4, 4, 5, 1s. We've got 4s. Lots of 5s on this side. Lots of 2s. More 5s. A couple more 2s, 4s. We've got 4s, 4s, 1 in there, 5, 5, 4s. Okay. So that's a lot of 5s and 4s. You're a pretty hopeful bunch, aren't you? Excellent. So let's see what we can make of that. We talked a little bit about the benefits of Agile, so let's actually look under the hood and see what it is. So Agile is now widely recognized as a project delivery and general working approach. So not just for IT, but a way of working with a proven track record, delivering business value faster through higher quality deliverables in comparison to traditional methodologies. So when I was preparing for this talk, one of the things I did was, I asked David, what are the concerns do you think we're going to get from this community? And he said quality, And I can assure you that you can set those fears aside. If you are working in Agile and there is an issue with quality, then you're not doing it right. Okay? So quality is not negotiable in Agile. It's not that it's not discussable, but the fact is we're always striving for quality. So where does Agile come from? So to put things into perspective, there was the first man on the moon, July 1969. Who of us in here remember that? Yeah, significant date. And then we have something called the Agile manifesto. Doesn't it sound grand? Written when a bunch of blokes were off skiing on a ski trip, lovely, in Snowbird, Utah. So what happened was a bunch of geeks got together and said, you know what? Us software developers, we're not being very professional, are we? How can we improve our profession? Because we want to do a better job. So that's when they turned their mind to doing something more professional and bringing the community together. And hopefully today might mark the start of your turn at having a go at Agile. So these blokes up in Snowbird, Utah, whilst in between their après-ski and everything else, they work hard, they put together this thing called Agile Manifesto. And they said, we're uncovering different ways of doing software development. And they identified 4 key points, which is we value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. We value working software over comprehensive documentation. And of course, there is point number 3. We value customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And finally, number 4, we value responding to change over following a plan. Now, the key thing to read here and pay attention is the last sentence. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So they're not saying that we don't need documentation, we don't need a plan, we don't need to negotiate contracts, we don't need processes and tools. That is not what they are saying. But very often, a misreading of this has led to so much confusion that when people come on projects, they say to me, Portia, I don't really need my pen anymore, do I? There's no documentation on Agile projects. And I turn around to them and say, gosh, what kind of projects do you work on? That would simply be daft. Yeah, it'd be daft. It's about enough documentation that adds value. It's about processes and tools that add value, not things that slow you down because you have to fill in some form that has no other value than, well, actually there is no value and there is just waste, right? Waste of your time, waste of ink, waste of someone else's time to have to approve it. And of course, you always need a plan. So what's really interesting is typically with the teams that I work with, within a couple of hours to a day, they'll often come up to me and they'll say, Portia, the amount of discipline you need in Agile is so big. I say, yeah, I know, and it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of time. It's a roller coaster ride, right? And it's a long one. So you want to think about sustainable pace and taking your time. And for people looking from the outside, all they see is this excitement, this kind of passion, a little bit of fear, a little bit of discomfort, lots of Post-its flying around, and it's not just a Post-it party, right? It's much more than that. So there are many different flavors of Agile. There are things like extreme programming, Scrum, lean software development, feature-driven development, lots and lots of those. So we're going to try to put into context what all this kind of alphabet soup of different Agile methods mean.